Hacked Pokemon formats are a real thing that people play competitively. Hacking can be used to give any Pokemon any ability or move in the entire game. This is obviously illegal. If you show up to an official tournament with a furret that knows how to use light that burns the sky, you will be escorted out of the venue, and the police will be called. But what if there were formats that allowed these hacked Pokemon to be used freely? If everybody can hack their Pokemon, then there's no problem. It's a level playing field. Well, that's exactly what the Hackmons formats are. And there are two kinds of Hackmons formats. The first kind is called Pure Hackmons, where there are no rules whatsoever. You can use any move on any Pokemon with any ability. If you want to run 6 Mega Rayquazas, each with huge power, and the strongest moves in the game, you go for it. That's completely allowed. Some Pure Hackmons formats are so broken that they don't even let you play them. Like Gen 8 Pure Hackmons, which has Eternamax Eternatus in it, which is a whole can of worms. Gen 7 Pure Hackmons is quite a fun format, I've played that one, but when you play it you will realize it is pure chaos. It centers around broken abilities like Wonder Guard and huge power. There is a metagame there, but it is incredibly over-centralized around the most broken mechanics in the whole game. So for this reason, a second way to play Hackmons does exist as well, and it's called Balanced Hackmons. And in Balanced Hackmons, some things are banned, the ridiculously broken things, like the ability Wonder Guard, probably the strongest ability in the whole game. Wonder Guard is the ability of Shedinja that means you are completely immune to all attacks that are not super effective. On Shedinja, this is perfectly balanced because it has 1 HP and it is weak to a lot of types, being a bug ghost type. But obviously when you can give this to any Pokemon in the game, it starts to be quite ridiculous. Today I would like to talk about every ability that is banned from Gen 9 Balanced Hackmons. And this is an interesting topic, because some of these abilities are pretty obviously banned for a clear reason, like Wonder Guard, which I just mentioned. Not much explanation is needed to see why this ability is ban-worthy, but there are some abilities banned here that are a little bit strange. And you wouldn't think that these are overpowered abilities or anything, but in the context of Balanced Hackmons, they were deemed unhealthy by the community and banned by suspect vote. But first, I must tell you something. I am an absolute fanatic for the well-known Marvel supervillain Venom, which is why I'm thrilled that this video is sponsored by Marvel Contest of Champions, a game where I can not only play as Venom, but 350 different superheroes and villains from the Marvel universe. What I love about Marvel Contest of Champions is how easy it is to pick up and play. The controls are simple, but there's still so much to explore, with each character having special signature attacks just for them. Marvel Contest of Champions has been around for more than 11 years now, with more than 325 million unique players. And can you believe that the game is still being updated with more content? What I also love is that it's fun to play on your own or with friends, because you can join an alliance and battle together in alliance wars. If you download the game using my link or QR code, you can claim a limited time X-Men Legacy bundle that includes 20 champions for free, such as Magneto, Gambit, and Emma Frost. It's the biggest giveaway yet to celebrate Season 2 of X-Men 97. The bundle is available till July 6th. So don't miss out and download the game now. Thank you to Marvel Contest of Champions for sponsoring this video. First up, we have trapping abilities. Arena Trap and Shadow Tag are both banned from Balanced Hackmons. These abilities are also banned in regular competitive singles formats, and the reason they're banned here is pretty much the same. These trapping abilities can be used to reliably nail down and eliminate a specific defensive wall, and in doing so allow an offensive threat of yours to now be completely unchecked and win the game easily. And if this was a powerful concept in regular competitive singles with a Pokemon like Dugtrio, imagine how much more problematic it would be if you can run Arena Trap or Shadow Tag on any Pokemon in the game. Dugtrio isn't even that great. It's only good because of Arena Trap. Same with Wobbuffet and Shadow Tag, or Gothitelle and Shadow Tag. Imagine Arceus with Shadow Tag, or Primal Groudon with Shadow Tag. A dreadful thought indeed. But what's interesting is the fact that Magnet Pull, considered a less powerful trapping effect, is also banned in Balanced Hackmons. Magnet Pull is not actually banned in regular competitive singles since it's more limited. Magnet Pull is an ability that only traps steel types specifically. Obviously a far more limited trapping effect. It can only trap specific things. So why would this also be banned in Balanced Hackmons? Well, interestingly, often the guy that you're trying to trap with Arena Trap or Shadow Tag is actually a Steel type anyway. Steel types are incredibly common in Balanced Hackmons. Pokemon like Registeel, who is very good here since it just has great stats and it can use any move or ability. And in Balanced Hackmons, you can actually use Pokemon from past gens that are not supposed to be in Gen 9 because they're still in the data of the game. So you can hack them in, like Ferrothorn and Celesteela, who are also quite popular. So Steel types are everywhere, and these are usually the most important defensive Pokemon on a team. Steel types defend against powerful offensive abilities like Pixelate and Refrigerate, which are obviously more prominent here because they're powerful and you can use them on anything with any move. There's like Boom Burst, Refrigerate, and Boom Burst Pixelate, which is really broken. Steel types defend against that. They defend against a lot of things, really. So it's interesting because even though Magnet Pull is not broken or problematic at all in regular formats, in Balanced Hackmons, any sort of trapping is really enhanced. The role of the Steel type is more important because the things it's defending against are more powerful. So if you eliminate the Steel type with Magnet Pull, you get far more of a reward from it. Also, the Pokemon trapping the Steel type can be anything. You can put Magnet Pull on anything, and it can learn anything, so there are more ways to punish a trapped Pokemon. You could fully set up against it with any boost in the game. Groudon Primal can have Magnet Pull, or any Arceus form can have Magnet Pull. Magnezone can sometimes set up on a helpless Steel type, like with Charge Beam sets, but it's not nearly on the level of something like an Arceus that could do the same. So even Magnet Pull, which is not a problematic ability in other contexts, is amplified in the environment of Balanced Hackmons, where eliminating a Steel type has so much more reward associated with it, and also you can punish any trapped Pokemon, even if it's a specific type, to a greater extent. And so Magnet Pull also falls under the umbrella of banned trapping moves, even though it's clearly worse than the other two. It's still considered ban-worthy in this environment. Up next is the ability Contrary, which is banned in Balanced Hackmons. Contrary is one of the strongest offensive abilities in the entire game, famously abused by Superior. Contrary has the effect of inverting stat stage changes, so if you were to gain a stat, you will instead lose it, and vice versa, if you lose a stat, you will instead gain it. Superior uses this with Leaf Storm, a move that usually lowers your special attack by 2 when you use it. Instead, with Superior, it will raise special attack by 2, allowing the Pokemon to ramp to absurd levels with a high power attack. So I think it's pretty obvious why this ability is a bit much in Balanced Hackmons. You can give this ability to anything, and use any move in the game with it, like V-Create, for example. V-Create is insane with Contrary. It has 180 power, and it lowers your defense, special defense, and speed by 1 stage each. But of course, when that's inverted, you will instead gain stats. What an insane move, with a ridiculously high power that also gives you defensive stats and speed. There's also, of course, Superpower, which can now be given to anything. It raises attack and defense by 1. Psycho Boost. Various special attackers can use this for the same purpose as Leaf Storm to gain special attack. Any of these kinds of moves that lower a stat, usually, designed with the drawback, are now the strongest moves ever with Contrary. The ability has a clear, overpowered application that is amplified by the fact that it can be on any Pokemon that can learn any move. This one's quite an obvious one. Up next we have Huge Power and Pure Power, which are both identical abilities and are both banned from Balanced Hackmons. Huge Power has the absurd effect of doubling a Pokemon's attack stat, and I think it is certainly the most powerful offensive ability in all of Pokemon. For clear reasons, it doubles your damn attack stat. That is a lot of extra attack. This ability is often designed around a Pokemon with a low base attack, like Azumarill. Azumarill has a terrible attack stat, but thanks to Huge Power, it can double its attack stat, including the bonus stats it gains from EVs, and this results in an incredibly high attack stat. Same with Medicham and Mega Medicham and Mega Mawile. All of these Pokemon can achieve some of the highest damage output in the whole game thanks to the doubling of their attack, even if their base stats aren't that amazing by normal standards. So obviously, if you can give this to any Pokemon, including one with a high attack like Rayquaza or something, it is clearly overpowered. Not much more to say about this one. It's banned, I think, for a very clear reason. Up next we have the ability Neutralizing Gas, which is used by the famous Pokemon Galarian Weezing. This is an ability that will, while active, nullify the effects of all other abilities. And this one might be a little bit confusing. You might think to yourself, well, wouldn't this actually be a welcome form of counterplay in Balanced Hackmons to disable powerful abilities like Pure Power or Wonder Guard? Wouldn't this actually be balanced? Well, think about it, folks. Think about this for a moment. You could theoretically give neutralizing gas to all 6 of your Pokemon, and then you would just be playing a game where there are no abilities. If neutralizing gas is legal in Balanced Hackmons, it can be given to anything, and therefore it can be given to everything, and you can effectively erase the entire mechanic of abilities from the experience, which is a bit lame, I think. Part of the reason you want to play Balanced Hackmons is to use all sorts of different abilities, like Prankster and Magic Bounce, on novel Pokemon. And often these abilities that you're choosing are smart team-building decisions to counter other things, and by eliminating this mechanic entirely, you would be erasing a lot of nuance and just making it a format about Pokemon with big stats clicking buttons, erasing a whole other element and another dimension to the gameplay, which is the ability choices. I suppose it's not inherently broken, it just erases a cool part of the game. So I think it makes perfect sense why it's completely banned. The format would just be far worse with this ability in it. Up next we have Guerrilla Tactics. And the reason this ability is banned is because they hate gorillas. Not only the animal, but the musical project by Damon Albarn. The people who make Balanced Hackmons are opposed to the idea of a fake cartoon band being used as an avatar for a real musician. They think that this is a terrible concept. Now, if you ask me, I think that's a bit reductive of them, a bit closed-minded, but it's their format and they can do as they please, I guess. I'm not the one who makes the shots. But also, I think part of the reason Guerrilla Tactics was banned was because of what the ability does. Guerrilla Tactics is the incredibly powerful ability of Galarian Darmanitan, and it's the sole reason why that Pokemon is so overpowered. With Guerrilla Tactics, your Pokemon will have a 1.5x increase to their attack stat, and they will have to be locked into the first move they execute until they switch out. This ability has the exact same effect as the item Choice Band, which is a powerful item. And you can, of course, equip a Choice Band on top of this ability and double up on the effect to also 1.5x your attack stat from the Choice Band and have no detriment since you're already locking into the move anyway. While this is not quite as ridiculous as Pure Power, which does not come with a drawback and is all upside, it's pretty comparable, and the direct attack increase that you can use on any Pokemon in the game with any move is a little bit ridiculous. If it was ban-worthy on Galarian Darmanitan, it's going to be ban-worthy as well on Zekrom or whoever. Has a very high attack stat and can use any move in the entire game. Up next is Hadron Engine, which is the new signature ability of the powerful box legendary Pokemon Miraidon. Hadron Engine is an incredibly powerful ability. First of all, it summons electric terrain on the field, which enhances the damage of electric moves and grants everything on the field a sleep immunity. But on top of that, it also grants your Pokemon a 1.33 repeating, of course, multiplier to its special attack stat while electric terrain is active. Obviously, you set electric terrain, so you benefit from that immediately. Now, of course, this is a very powerful ability on a Legendario, but you may question why this is banned in Balanced Hackmons when there's counterplay to it, you would think, like Ice Scales, which is an ability that halves incoming special attack damage. This is not quite on the level of something like Pure Power, which enhances offenses to a ludicrous extent. But what makes this really broken is the fact that you can run this alongside the move Rising Voltage. And Miraidon doesn't naturally get this, but it's Balanced Hackmon, so you can run whatever you want. Rising Voltage is a 70 power electric special attack that doubles in power if electric terrain is active, so becomes a 140 power electric type special attack enhanced further by the electric terrain and stab damage presumably, and on top of this your special attack is also increased by Hadron Engine. So the damage output of a Rising Voltage in electric terrain from Hadron Engine is ludicrous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Even powering through Pokemon with Ice Scales, which is the Special Wall ability. Even they could not defeat this, and you may be thinking, well, why not run a ground type? And there are prominent ground types in Hackmons, of course, like Zygarde. and Arceus Ground and such, but it's Balanced Hackmons. You can just literally run any move in the entire world, so you can just chuck Ice Beam on. Miraidon doesn't usually get this, but it's incredibly easy to fill out your moveset with options for the exact counterplay to the thing. So this sort of incredibly powerful option is greatly enhanced in Balanced Hackmons when it's so easy to run coverage to just hit the exact thing that would normally defeat you. Funnily enough, Miraidon was one of the Pokemon that used Hadron Engine, just using the ability it already gets, but also Regieleki would use this ability. And that's another can of worms, because Regieleki is literally the fastest thing in the entire game. So that, with Hadron Engine and Rising Voltage, is a significant force to be reckoned with. I'm sure you can agree. And in a very similar vein, the ability Orichalcum Pulse is also banned in Balanced Hackmons. This is a similar ability that is used by the other box legendary of Gen 9, Koraidon. This ability will summon Sunny Day on the field on switch in, like the ability Drought, but has the added benefit of multiplying the Pokemon's attack by 1.33, repeating, of course, during Sun. A very similar ability to Hadron Engine, and very broken for much the same reason. With the Sun boost, which is higher, by the way, than the Electric Terrain boost, 1.5x damage, plus V Create, plus an attack boost, you have one of the strongest nukes of all time. This has an even higher power also than Rising Voltage in Electric Terrain. With 180 power, it does come with the drawback of lowering your defense, special defense, and speed after being used, but the sheer power of it in the Sun, boosted by Stab and the attack boost, is just a ridiculous amount of damage output. Even able to power through the hard physical walls like Fur Coat uses. Even they can't really withstand this. Arceus Fire was apparently one of the chief abusers of this, which makes sense. Fire type with generally high stats. In Balanced Hackmons, you can use these Arceus forms in different types without having to hold a plate, or have the multi-type ability. You can give the guy Orichalcum Pulse, which is just ludicrous, isn't it? An absurd concept. Who would do such a thing and get away with it? Who could do it? Someone without a shred of integrity did this, and they got away with it for a time, until it was deemed illegal. Up next is the ability Stake Out, which you probably wouldn't think of as one of the strongest abilities in the game, but it is. It just isn't on anything good in the real game, but in a vacuum, this ability is absolutely crazy. The effect of this ability is that it will double your offensive stat if the target made a switch this turn, if it's switched in. So even though this is not as good as Huge Power, which just grants double attack all the time, whether they've switched in or not, one of the most common things an offensive Pokemon does is force the enemy to switch to a defensive Pokemon. That's sort of their whole thing. Usually, if you have your life threatened, you will not stay in and face certain death. You will exit to something that can tank the hit and strike back. But Stake Out makes this a terrible choice. You will double your offensive stat, and this can also be special attack, not just attack. It's whatever the offensive stat you're using is. I think Gumshoes or something bad gets this in the base game. Everything that gets this is garbage, but if this was actually on a good Pokemon, it would be game-breaking. If this was on anything with a decent damage output and speed, it would be crazy. And that's exactly what's the case in Balanced Hackmons, where you can give it to anything. Who knew that the ability of Spidops could have such earth-shattering implications? In this format where gods and titans face off, they turn to Spidops for counsel and mentorship, for the ability to stake out the opponent. Is a coveted skill at the absolute top of the totem pole. Who knew? Who knew that Spidops had such ancient wisdom? The ability Moody is banned in Balanced Hackmons, and this is one that's also banned in competitive singles format. This is an ability that will boost a random stat by 2 and subtract a random stat by 1 every turn. Even on completely terrible Pokemon like Glalie and Scovillain, this ability has been problematic in competitive singles in the past, since it can completely randomly allow them to sweep entire teams if they get the perfect boosts for the situation, and they can simply protect and substitute until they get those boosts, maximizing their chances for nonsense. There are replays of Glalie sweeping Uber's teams because it happened to get the best boosts possible multiple times in a row. So if Glalie can do that to an Uber's team, imagine what any Pokemon in the game could do with access to the same ability like Zacian Crown, substituting and protecting over and over until it receives a bunch of attack and speed and then just sweeping the whole game. We don't want that. The ability just isn't very fun. It adds unnecessary variance to games, and It's of course enhanced by the fact that anything can learn it. It's even a problem when Glalie can learn it, so imagine anything being able to learn it. Up next we have Illusion, and this one is actually kind of weird, right? Illusion is the signature ability of Zoroark, and it has the effect of being able to disguise your Pokemon as another Pokemon. You will appear to be the last Pokemon in the party until you take damage. Then it will be revealed that you are, in fact, a different Pokemon the whole time. This is strange because this ability is far from ban-worthy in regular competitive singles. It can be alright on Hisuian Zoroark, in particular, to disguise as something and be immune to things that they thought you were weak to, and trick the opponent, but generally not a very good ability. But part of the reason for that is just because Zoroark itself is a bit weak. Both forms of Zoroark are very frail and vulnerable to big neutral attacks, making them a little bit unreliable at abusing the disguise effect. It's also the case that even if they correctly deceive the opponent and get a free turn out of the scenario, that single turn of setup is not exactly going to be game-winning. They are reasonably fast special attackers, but not so much that they can win instantaneously off a single turn of setup. Choice Scarf Pokemon will outrun them, plenty of things naturally outrun them, and Revenge KO them once the jig is up. But of course this is Balanced Hackmons, where we're not dealing with a Zoroark running Illusion, we're dealing with anything in the whole game running Illusion. When you really think about the implications of Illusion in Balanced Hackmons, it is quite frightening. This is already a format where you have no idea what the opponent could have. You could stare down the face of an Arceus and it could have any ability or move in the whole game. So there's already an element of complete unpredictability. There's some things you can infer, common sets on common Pokemon, but truly you don't actually know, and there's ridiculous set variety here. When you add Illusion into the equation, a Pokemon being able to disguise as something that could have anything in the game, this adds yet another dimension of absurd complexity. Not only does this make it infinitely harder to guess what's going on, it's also more difficult to actually give away that you're an illusion, right? If Zoroark uses Nasty Plot while disguised, and it was disguised as Ferrothorn, now you know that it's Zoroark. They've just revealed themselves, because Ferrothorn can't learn Nasty Plot. But this is Balanced Hackmons. If the disguised Pokemon does something, that doesn't reveal anything. They could easily be the other Pokemon and vice versa. You have no idea. Clicking a move or revealing something about your Pokemon doesn't actually illuminate anything. You have to hit them to reveal the illusion. So dealing with illusion in Balanced Hackmons is much more difficult. There are more powerful Pokemon that can disguise as things. They get more out of a potential free turn from pretending to have immunities or weaknesses they don't have. And it's more difficult to suss out whether they're disguised or not, and guess what? You can also run multiple illusion Pokemon. I suppose if they wanted to, they could play with this aspect in the game where anything at any time could be a disguise, and it's incredibly difficult to figure it out, but I do understand why they banned this. The experience of playing this illusion format sounds absolutely hellish. I probably wouldn't want to play that either. Every single turn would just be an impossible guessing game of what the hell you're facing. I think part of this ban was also one of compassion, such that we as unknowing individuals do not fall into a trap and do something we can never return from. Because I'm sure, as we all know, if you disguise yourself as another and use their visage and their soul to deceive, this incurs a significant amount of karmic debt. Up next we have Water Bubble, which is banned in Balanced Hackmons, the humble ability of Araquanid. Araquanid is actually blessed with one of the strongest abilities in the entire game. Enough to be banned from this prestigious format, Water Bubble grants 2x power to all water-type attacks. It also grants an immunity to being burned, and it grants a resistance to fire. Fire damage against the Pokemon is halved. So it does 3 good things here. But the most noteworthy good thing is that you are doubling the power of water-type attacks. There's a common theme here where doubling damage is incredibly powerful when you can do so on any Pokemon. Araquanid is the only Pokemon that gets Water Bubble, and it's designed around it because its offensive stats are very low. But specifically water moves on it can do a lot of damage because their power is doubled. So when you can give Water Bubble to, for example, Primal Kyogre, and then also give it a Choice Scarf and it's able to click Water Spout, the damage output from this is ridiculous. I mean, a water spout from Primal Kyogre is a powerful attack at the worst of times, but when you're doubling that damage, goodness gracious, that's more than a rain boost. That's quite a bit more than a rain boost. Imagine if rain is also up. That's achievable. You can also set rain and click water spout water bubble in the rain. That's something you can do. They're allowing this. And this is insane because water is a very spammable type. I think you're scarcely going to see water absorb in Balanced Hackmons. It's not really good enough to justify. It might be a niche thing here and there, but there are far more powerful abilities that you could be using besides just water absorb. So this ability is honestly comparable to something like Huge Power. Even though it's limited to just one type, that one type is a great type with high power moves available to it. It's not irrelevant that you're immune to burn. That can be great on physical attackers, and even the fire resistance comes in handy. It's just an absolutely insane ability. Up next is Parental Bond, the exclusive ability of Mega Kangaskhan, the mother, everybody's favorite mother and son duo. Parental Bond has a very powerful effect. This Pokemon's damaging moves will hit twice. The second hit has its damage quartered. So it's a bit of extra damage from moves. Every move you use gets a bit of a multi-hit that is weaker, but does a relevant extra little bit of damage. In most applications, this ability is not that crazy. It's a straightforward damage increase, but there are some applications of this ability that can get kind of insane. One of these applications is when you have a move that raises a stat, like Torch Song for example. If Torch Song is executed twice, the secondary effect will activate twice as well, and you will effectively get +2 special attack from Torch Song. That's very powerful. Another context in which Parental Bond is very powerful is when used with Seismic Toss or Nightshade. Seismic Toss is a strong move that deals damage equal to the user's level. So if you are level 100, it will deal 100 flat damage. Very good on defensive Pokemon that don't have a very high damage output to just deal a flat amount of damage reliably. And what's great about this with Parental Bond is the second hit will also deal 100 damage. It will not be quartered like it is with a normal move that is affected by regular damage calculation. The Seismic Toss effect bypasses the usual drawback of Parental Bond, and it will just result in a double hit move that deals an effective 200 flat damage, which is an insane amount of flat damage to be able to deal without any offensive stat at all. And Parental Bond is also incredible with Ruination or Super Fang, these kinds of moves that deal half of a target's current HP, because they will cast twice, and the amount of damage you deal cannot be reduced by the usual effect of Parental Bond either. So the first hit will deal a flat 50% of the target's HP, and the next hit will deal 25% since it's dealing damage equal to the enemy's current HP. So you can just deal 75% of a Pokemon's HP and damage instantly in a single turn with this combination of Super Fang or Ruination and Parental Bond, which is also ridiculous. I mean, Mega Kangaskhan itself is banned from both Gen 6 and 7 OU as a result of Parental Bond and what it enables for it. Mega Kangaskhan also has Seismic Toss, it has Power Up Punch, which becomes a great option when you can cast it twice and gain 2 attack from it, and the general damage increase is also a little bit overwhelming. If Mega Kangaskhan is broken with this, think about some of the strongest Pokemon in the game all being able to use Parental Bond. It's no surprise to anybody that a mother as prolific as Mega Kangaskhan is having such an impact in the hacked Pokemon environment. Everybody knows that the mentorship of a mother is considered ban-worthy. Do not let Mega Kangaskhan teach the secrets of parental bonding to Arceus, or we will be in a lot of trouble as a society. Everybody knows this, and I'm glad that the Balanced Hackmons community has addressed this glaring issue. Up next is Innards Out, and this is probably a weird one. This ability is on the Pokemon Pyukumuku and also Mega Victory Bell more recently, and is probably not considered that crazy of an ability. But in the context of Balanced Hackmons, this ability has an insane application. Innards Out has the effect that if the Pokemon with this ability is KO'd by a move, the attacker will lose an equal amount of HP that they just dealt to themselves. So in Balanced Hackmons, you can give this ability to something with a really high HP stat that means if they ever get KO'd, they will just directly KO the enemy that just touched them. which is an incredibly powerful concept. It's like having an inbuilt explosion that always kills the enemy. So Innards Out is incredibly powerful on a Pokemon like Chansey and Blissey that have massive HP stats and actually take a lot of damage in terms of a raw number value of damage dealt, since they have such a high HP. If anything attempts to attack these Pokemon, they will die themselves. And so they can sit there and set hazards and do all sorts of things, while the enemy has to dance around them and not actually hit them, or they will die themselves. Not only is this a very powerful inbuilt defense mechanism for a Pokemon like Chansey or Blissey, it also operates as a form of counterplay against boost sweepers, because maybe an enemy Pokemon has achieved a free turn, boosted up, and they're about to sweep your team, but you just switch into the Innards Out Pokemon, they KO it, and then subsequently KO themselves. It's like a landmine or a backup plan. At worst, this Pokemon will just trade evenly, and often it will get more value out of the exchange while bringing the enemy down with it. It's an ability that allows your Pokemon to just trade up more often than not. And that kind of guaranteed value, I suppose, was viewed as a bit unhealthy for the Balanced Hackmons format. They got rid of it. It is an incredibly powerful ability when you can give it to anything, especially Chansey or Blissey. Up next is Poison Heal, which I'm sure you're familiar with, famously abused by the Pokemon Gliscor. Poison Heal is an extraordinary ability that causes the poison status effect to heal you instead of dealing damage to you, and it heals you by a significant amount, 1/8 of your max HP every turn. Poison Heal is great because you can just equip the item Toxic Orb to deliberately poison yourself and activate the effect. Not only is this good because it heals twice as much as Leftovers, so it's a direct improvement over Leftovers, it's also good because it offers an effective immunity to all status. Since you're already poisoned, you can't be statused by anything else, you can only have one status ailment at a time. And you're self-inflicting this status ailment that is objectively good for you, so you get incredible chip heal and status immunity. What's also amazing is that you're resilient against knockoff. If the enemy knocks off your item, it doesn't matter. You've already inflicted the poison on yourself, and you don't actually need to keep holding the Toxic Orb to benefit from Poison Heal. If the Toxic Orb gets knocked off, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that initial poisoning, and then the item is pretty much worthless from then on. So you're basically immune to item removal, status, and you have the greatest chip heal in the game worth double the amount of Leftovers. It's just an outstanding deal, an ability that offers so much. Powerful defensive Pokemon could abuse this ability for the incredible defensive effects of it, but you could also chuck this on something like Regigigas and use Facade with Regigigas, which gains double power while you are statused. You can use Shift Gear as a boosting move, and this was one of the strongest sweeping sets in the game. I mean, we already know how good Gliscor is as a result of this ability. Gliscor is literally a common Pokemon in Gen 9 Ubers because of how good Poison Heal is. So, of course, you can imagine if anything could learn Poison Heal, the effects are truly next level in terms of their metagame implications. Up next is Liquid Ooze. Yes, the ability Liquid Ooze is banned in Balanced Hackmons. This is probably the strangest ban in the format, because Liquid Ooze in regular competitive singles is not even very good. This is the ability of Swalot and Tentacruel. Why would they go and ban this? The effect of the ability is that if a Pokemon drains your HP and you have Liquid Ooze, they will take damage equal to the amount that they would have healed from the draining. So it's counterplay against effects like Leech Seed and Drain Punch and Giga Drain, etc. It's an alright ability. It's not terrible, but it's far from on the level of something like Pure Power or Orichalcum Pulse. So why would it be banned in Balanced Hackmons? Well, the reason is kind of funny. One of the most central moves in Balanced Hackmons, and most popular moves, is Strength Sap. In regular Pokemon, this is a rarely seen move, not many things get it, but in Balanced Hackmons, anything can learn it. And it's probably the best healing move in the whole game. Strength Sap will first lower the opponent's attack by 1 stage, and then it will heal the user equal to the target's attack stat. And this is usually way more healing than a regular healing move like Recover. This is Balanced Hackmons, where we're using the strongest Pokemon in the game with high base stats. Most of the time, Strength Sap is going to actually fully heal you up to 100%, because of how high the attack stats of most Pokemon are. Plus, you're lowering their attack, you're nerfing them a little bit. It's an excellent move, one of the strongest utility moves in the entire game. But the thing about it is that this healing effect counts as draining, in the same way that Giga Drain and Leech Seed do. So if you use Strength Sap against a Pokemon with Liquid Ooze, instead of healing, you will deal damage to yourself equal to the amount that you would have healed, which is often your entire health bar. So if you use Strength Sap against something with Liquid Ooze, you will just end your own existence much of the time. So this is a weird situation, isn't it? Because some people view this as valid counterplay to a very powerful move. Strength Sap is prolific in Balanced Hackmons. It is one of the strongest moves in the game. It's everywhere. And Liquid Ooze makes you second guess whether you're going to click Strength Sap or not, doesn't it? And I have talked about this one in a previous video, and people were very upset when they learned that their favorite ability, Liquid Ooze, is illegal to use in Balanced Hackmons. And many of them said, well, why don't you just ban Strength Sap instead? That would eliminate this issue. Instead of clicking Strength Sap and possibly dying, why don't you click something else like Shore Up or something as a healing option? Why do you need to click Strength Sap? Well, they could ban Strength Sap, but I don't know. I've played a bit of Balanced Hackmons, not a ton, but a little bit. And in my experience, I haven't found Strength Sap overpowered in a way that's annoying or anything. It's just a really strong healing move. In fact, it's kind of nice to have as a form of counterplay against powerful offensive Pokemon. So they could ban Strength Sap if they wanted, and that would eliminate this ridiculous situation where you can end yourself, possibly, by clicking Strength Sap. It would also completely eliminate the incentive to run Liquid Ooze. But the other alternative is to ban Liquid Ooze. Or do nothing, I guess, but one of the options is also to ban Liquid Ooze. And this would allow them to keep Strength Sap in the metagame and remove this scenario where you can die if you click it. Now, I personally think it's good sometimes to have a bit of counterplay to spammable moves, like Rocky Helmet being a form of counterplay against U-Turn. If you click U-Turn, there's a risk that they switch to a Rocky Helmet Pokemon and you take a bit of chip damage. Makes you question whether you should click U-Turn or not. Same with Flame Body. You might get burned if you click U-Turn, and that's a risk. But you see that there's a big difference between maybe getting burned or taking a very slight amount of chip damage and losing your whole Pokemon. It's a very extreme form of counterplay. Imagine, for example, if Corviknight had an ability called Pivoting Punishment. And if you select U-Turn against Corviknight, you just die instantly. I think that would also be very extreme. That would be too much. Like, I'm all for a bit of counterplay to U-Turn, but that would be too much counterplay. That would be an extreme swing in the game. So personally, I think the Liquid Ooze ban makes sense, even if it's weird looking and a bit different to some of the other bans they've done, where they're banning a clearly very overpowered thing that is straightforwardly too strong. This is more of a small balance iteration on one interaction that was too swingy, that they didn't want in the format. I can sort of understand the anti-banning sentiment for OU, even though I think it's a bit dramatic and exaggerated. But when it comes to Balanced Hackmons, it's already by design an illegal format where you can use impossible combinations of moves. The format existing in the first place is already outside the bounds of what's possible on the cartridge by regular means. So who the hell cares if they ban Liquid Ooze? I don't care. Isn't it kind of funny that Liquid Ooze is banned? Isn't that a funny bit of trivia? Can't we just appreciate the humor of the situation and not get up in arms about a format that, let's be honest, you just learned existed today from my video? And you're very, very distressed by the fact that they've banned Liquid Ooze instead of banning Strength Sap, even though you have no hands-on experience with this. And even if you're someone who actively played in the Liquid Ooze legal metagame of Balanced Hackmons, and you were against the ban, I would imagine that you don't think that this ruined the format, because it's a pretty minor change that just removed one interaction. It's not like this is permanently altering the identity of the whole format. It's an earth-shattering ban that has made Balanced Hackmons a cesspool, and Liquid Ooze was like Atlas holding the world on its shoulders, and now that Liquid Ooze is gone, it's all crumbled. Is there anyone who thinks that? Is there anyone who actively played Balanced Hackmons during the time Liquid Ooze was legal that thinks, now that Liquid Ooze is banned, they're out, and they're never playing again? This is a deal breaker. They're done. The banning of Liquid Ooze was the last straw. If any of you say Liquid Ooze shouldn't have been banned in Balanced Hackmons, I might just speak with Smogon because I have them on my telephone. I'll speak with them. I'll get it banned from OU. You will never be able to use Swalot again, okay? If you say even a peep about Liquid Ooze in the comments. I will speak with Finchinator. I have his contact information. I will get Liquid Ooze banned from OU if you say even a single word about this. And the final banned ability I would like to talk about today in Balanced Hackmons, Protean and Libero, which are the same ability with different names. They have the exact same effect. Protean is an ability famous on the Pokemon Greninja. And this is an interesting scenario because this ability was actually nerfed. In its pre-nerf state, this ability was famous for how powerful it was. It would allow your Pokemon to change its type every single time it uses a move. It would change into the type of the move it just used. So if Greninja uses Ice Beam, it becomes an Ice type. If it uses U-Turn, it becomes a Bug type. And that applies to every single move it uses. But in Gen 9, it was nerfed to now only apply that type change effect a single time per switch in. So now if you use Ice Beam, you become an Ice type on the first move selection. But if you select another move, you will not then transform into the type of that move. You just remain an Ice type until you switch out. A significantly worse ability now. But apparently, still powerful enough to be banned in Balanced Hackmons. Something worth noting is that everything with Protean or Libero in the base game is kind of weak offensively. They're not terrible. They have good offensive stats, but the fact that they have Protean and Libero are counterbalanced by their slightly lower offensive stats. But this is Balanced Hackmons, and you can give Protean or Libero to any Pokemon, like for example, Mega Alakazam, a Pokemon with an extremely high special attack stat and a high speed. And Mega Alakazam gets a lot out of this, because the worst thing about Mega Alakazam is that it's a mono-psychic type, which is a bad typing. It can still hit quite hard with non-stab special attacks with such a high special attack stat, but Protean is a perfect fit on this Pokemon, allowing it to change type, effectively gaining a 1.5x boost on whatever move it selects just the first time. But even though Protean's not as good as it once was and they can't continuously switch moves to get more out of Protean, even just that first hit that is boosted by stab damage can be enough on the right Pokemon to completely power through defensive checks. And in this context, it actually is still an incredibly powerful offensive ability. Previously, Deoxys Attack also used this ability to an insane effect. You can imagine how. Deoxys Attack is now banned from the format. But you can even use neutral Deoxys with Protean if you want access to mixed attacking options with a Pokemon that has 150 base attack and base special attack. This can actually be a viable choice. So that's why the abilities Protean and Libero are banned in Balanced Hackmons. They can be abused by these very powerful, fast attackers that have bad base typing and abuse Protean to gain stab damage on any move that they like, allowing them to become near unbeatable wall breakers. And that's every banned ability in Balanced Hackmons. Balanced Hackmons seems to have an interesting ethos with its balance decisions. Some of these bans are extremely understandable, like Pure Power, Wonder Guard, Water Bubble, Contrary, etc. But some like Liquid Ooze and Illusion and Magnet Pull are a little bit more subjective and are perhaps more done for the specific interests and desires of the active player base than for being strictly overpowered abilities in the same way that other ones are. Certainly an interesting format and an interesting set of things that are uniquely powerful for this format, with its extreme parameters. Thank you again to Marvel Contest of Champions for sponsoring this video. Check my link in the description and pinned comment below.